Alright, so welcome back everybody. So for this video, I'm going to be talking about the amphibian strategy in my forced shuffle strategies videos. So let's get started talking about the amphibian strategy. Now, one thing I talked about in the last video is the bat strategy works with this strategy pretty well. They're good cards that work in sync with each other for the most part anyway. So this is a good strategy with the bat strategy as well, assuming you watched the bat strategy video. So one of the main cards in this strategy that would work well with this particular strategy, the amphibian strategy, is trying to get your hands on a fire salamander. Now, if you started the game off with a fire salamander, that's pretty rare, because you see there's only 3 of these fire salamanders in the game. If you can manage to track down even 2 of them though, that's 15 points, and they're cheap to play too. So the fire salamander would be quite helpful if you were going this particular route, the amphibian strategy. That's one of the good amphibians in the game for sure. Now, the thing about the amphibian strategy is you're going to be playing a lot of cards underneath trees here. So the parasol mushroom is going to give you a card every time you play a card below a tree. So this is a good card to get in the beginning of the game after you've played your first tree, or as soon as you possibly get it. This is another good card that will work well with this particular strategy here. So let's put fire salamander up there, and let's put the mushroom down here, as this will be in addition to what you're working towards, obviously. Now, the thing about the fire salamander is it has another benefit here. If you meet the requirements of the binoculars, then you can play a mammal for free, which is cool. So, you know, while you're working on the fire salamanders here and playing as many as you can get your hands on, you might be tempted to play a mammal for free as well. And obviously a good mammal that would work well with this strategy, especially since you're going to be playing a lot of cards and utilizing a lot of cards in this strategy, the amphibian strategy. Another good one that doesn't need a lot of cards to score you some points would be obviously the lynx / the roe deer, okay? Meaning the lynx is going to score you 10 points if you have at least 1 roe deer, and so getting these 2 into the equation with your amphibian strategy is a plus for sure, and it's something you might consider doing while you're working on your amphibian strategy. But if you don't focus too much on that, or just don't do it at all, or just play some other mammal that just happens to give you a couple of points or something, then that's fine too, right? For sure. But yes, that's something that could potentially be good for you. Another one that could potentially be quite useful with the amphibian strategy is the pond turtle. It gives you a card when you play it. It is expensive to play, but it does give you 5 points every time. And there's only 2 of these in the entire game. So this is another amphibian. Well, it's actually a reptile, right? But in this game, it's considered an amphibian, okay? Because this is the only reptile in the game. It's considered an amphibian in this game. So it could help with this amphibian strategy, because you want to obviously get as many amphibians as you can. So that's another one, obviously. Now, one of the main ones that's actually probably the best because it's cheaper, as in it's free, would be the common toad here. But the common toad doesn't give you any points on its own. You need to have 2 common toads sharing space. They must share the same spot underneath the tree. This is the second animal that breaks the rule that you can only have 1 card under a tree, to the left of the tree, to the right of the tree, to the top of the tree. This is the only other one that breaks the rule. Obviously, the European hare is the other one that breaks the rule, but the common toad is the only other one that does this. But if you have both common toads, that's 10 points, right? And there's 6 common toads in the game. So if you have more common toads, obviously just put the other 2 common toads under another tree to score even more points, obviously. Now, we are playing a ton of amphibians, but there is another amphibian that obviously is in the game, and that's the tree frog. That means if you're going to go this route and play the tree frog, you're going to want to play a net, so that way this can score you points too. Which is why I say the bat strategy works really well with the amphibian strategy. But yes, the tree frog is another potential amphibian that would work well with the strategy. Now, like I said, these are the most important cards, amphibian-wise, to play if you're going the amphibian strategy, okay? These are the least most important. Now, if you are going the strategy, there is one card for sure that these revolve around that will be the most ultimate cards you can have in this game, and that is the tree ferns. Because you see, they, while only cost one card to play, will let you draw another card, but they're worth 6 points for every amphibian you have. So this card, all of these cards revolve, well, all of these amphibians revolve around this one card here. So if you had all of this equation here, this one card would score you 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36. This one tree ferns would give you 36 points if this is the equation you had. Not to mention all the points you get for these guys as well, right? And so the tree ferns is another good card that would work well with this strategy. And it's, like I said, the best card if you're going this route, the amphibian route, that is. If you're going this route, this is the best card to have for the amphibian strategy. Then, if you can't get it, the fire salamander is still a good one to go for if you manage to track down a couple of them at least. Obviously, if you start with a couple of common toads, they're good to go for even if you're not going the amphibian strategy. But if you're going the amphibian strategy, this card is a must, okay? Tree ferns is a must. Obviously, it doesn't get you anything if you don't have the other amphibians, but most likely, you'll have some of these. Most likely, it will be these guys at the very least, these toads. But what's some other good cards that would work well with this strategy? And obviously, if you can track down another tree ferns, if you can get 2 of these, there's 3 in the game, but if you can get 2 of these, that's a lot of points. If you get 2 of these cards, you may not even need to go and work on other strategies because you could potentially get so many points with this tree ferns. But another good card that would work well in this strategy is the wood ant, because the wood ant, not only is it cheap to play, but it gives you 2 points for every card you have below a tree. So if this was the equation here, this would give me 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, 14, 16, because the toads are two things that are below a tree. So this wood ant would get me 16 points. So hey, look at that. Another powerful card that would work really well with the amphibian strategy, because there's not many things that go underneath trees. You've got it's mostly just plants, amphibians, some insects, and some obviously some mushrooms. So the wood ant is a really good one. With this particular one, it's a really good card to have if you can get it for this strategy. And then there's one other card that would be super useful and super helpful if you manage to get it, and that is this mole here. Now it's very different considering it's the only mammal. Well, you don't want to play it for free, okay? You do not want to play this for free with your fire salamander, because you wouldn't get to activate the effect, the ability here, which is you can immediately play any number of cards and by paying their cost. So you can play multiple cards on the same turn. So the mole is a fairly good card to have with this particular strategy, because there's a lot of cards here that are cheap or free to play, okay? This only costs 1. This one is 0. These 2 are 0. This one only costs 1. This one costs 1, that one costs 1. So there's a lot of 1s and 0s here. The only thing in here that really costs a lot is the mushroom and this pond turtle. So you could potentially play a lot of cards after playing the mole. You could play, well, if you had 10 cards in your hand and you played the mole, you have to discard 2 cards to play it. So you'd be down to 7 cards, okay? So if you had the two toads, then you'd be down to 5 cards. If you played a wood ant, you'd be down to 2 cards, I think. 3 cards. You'd be down to 3 cards. If you played the tree fern here, you'd be down to 1 card, which could potentially be a tree frog or a common toad. You could potentially play your entire hand, potentially, if you had the mole. Assuming you had all of those in your hand, and obviously cards to discard as well. But the mole would also be a good one for this particular strategy, for this particular video. So, this one's a very powerful one for sure. If you manage to get, like I say, a tree fern or 2 tree ferns, and most of these amphibians, the other cards in the game aren't as important as these. And while you might get some points for the other cards you play, you probably don't need to go heavy on other strategies with this particular one because it's very powerful. So I hope you guys liked this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.